My friends, in life, we often hear many words, but very few carry the weight of action. We live in a world where talking has become easy, promises are made quickly, opinions are shared instantly, and judgments are passed within seconds and seconds. Yet when we look closely, we realize that strength of mind is never measured by how much someone speaks, but by how much they actually do. Strong minds do not waste their energy in endless debates. Instead, they invest their energy in purposeful actions that create results. A wise person once said, empty vessels make the most noise. And indeed, we notice that those who lack clarity, discipline, and direction often spend more time speaking rather than acting. But those with strong minds, those with resilience, wisdom, and determination, they speak less. Their silence is not weakness, it is power. Their actions are their true language, and the world listens to it without them saying a word. Let us learn how to cultivate this strength to become people who don't just speak, but do. To become individuals whose actions inspire, whose lives teach, and whose discipline becomes their legacy. Anyone can speak about change, but very few take the steps to bring change. Words are easy, they flow freely, and they cost nothing. Almost every day we hear people making promises to themselves or to others. I will wake up early from tomorrow. I will work harder from next week. I will start my health journey from next month. Or I will become a better person when the time is right. These words sound good, they give a temporary sense of motivation, and sometimes they even impress those who are listening. But as days pass, we realize that words alone cannot carry us forward. A strong mind knows that change does not come from what we say, but from what we do consistently every single day. There are countless examples in our own lives where we have spoken about something with great enthusiasm, but when the moment of action arrived, we found excuses to delay it. Why does this happen? Because speaking is effortless, but doing requires discipline, sacrifice, and resilience. Talking gives us the illusion of progress, but action is the real progress. It is easy to sit with friends and talk about dreams, but it takes courage to wake up at 5 a.m. and take the first step towards that dream. Strong minds understand this truth deeply, and that is why they speak less. They know that talking too much about plans can drain the energy needed to actually execute them. Think of a farmer. He does not sit in the field and talk to everyone about how good his harvest will be. Instead, he silently prepares the soil, plants the seeds, waters the land, and waits with patience. Months later, when the harvest comes, the results speak for themselves. This is exactly how a strong mind operates. It does not spend time in excessive speech about what is going to be done. It quietly works on the foundation so that the results are undeniable when they appear. There is also a hidden danger in too much talking. The more we speak about our goals, the more we feel satisfied as if we have already achieved them. Psychologists even call it a false sense of accomplishment. By telling everyone what we are going to do, we sometimes fool ourselves into believing we are already progressing. But a strong mind is aware of this trap. Instead of announcing everything, it conserves that energy and channels it into action. This is why the truly strong are often misunderstood as being quiet or reserved. But in reality, their silence is strength, because their actions are being built brick by brick behind the scenes. When we reflect on history, the people who created revolutions, inventions, and breakthroughs did not waste years in endless talking. They were people of action. Their minds were strong enough to carry ideas into reality, no matter how difficult the path was. They did not just say that this should change. They rolled up their sleeves and worked until change became visible. That's why the world remembers them. The legacy is not made of words, but of deeds. So when we think about our own lives, we must ask, are we only speaking about what we want to do, or are we truly doing it? Are we filling our lives with promises and declarations, or are we filling them with discipline and effort? Words can motivate for a moment, but action transforms life permanently. Strong minds know that while anyone can talk about dreams, it is those who act on them who truly make a difference. Strong minds do not waste energy on unnecessary talk. They preserve it for meaningful efforts. Silence is often misunderstood as emptiness or weakness, but in reality, silence is a sign of focus, clarity, and strength. When a person has a strong mind, they understand that every bit of energy they spend must be directed towards their purpose. Words consume energy, arguments drain focus, and endless discussions scatter the mind. But silence conserves. Silence is like a bow being pulled back, gathering strength before releasing an arrow with precision. A strong mind knows this and chooses silence when speaking will not serve any real purpose. In our daily lives, we often feel the temptation to speak up, to share every thought, every opinion, and every idea that comes to mind. But if we observe closely, we will notice that most of this talk adds no real value. Much of it is gossip, complaints, or empty speculation. A strong mind refuses to be pulled into such traps. Instead, it directs its energy inward, toward reflection, and outward, toward meaningful action. This ability to remain silent is not about being passive. It is about being deeply active in the right direction. Consider the way a sculptor works. He does not talk endlessly about the statue he is going to create. He does not spend hours explaining to people how beautiful the final form will look. Instead, he stands silently before a block of stone, carefully carving away piece by piece. His silence is not inactivity. It is the deepest form of focus. The world sees the result much later, but the sculptor's silence is the foundation of that result. Similarly, strong minds withdraw from meaningless chatter and invest their time in carving out their future, one disciplined action at a time. There is also another dimension to silence. It sharpens awareness. When we speak less, we listen more. And when we listen more, we learn more. More. Strong minds are constantly learning, observing, and absorbing. They don't feel the need to dominate conversations or prove themselves right at every opportunity. Instead, they listen carefully, take in the lessons, and then use that wisdom in their actions. Their silence is not ignorance. It is the fertile ground where knowledge grows and transforms into wisdom. Silence also protects relationships. Many conflicts in life arise not because of actions, but because of unnecessary words. Heated arguments, careless remarks, or ego-driven statements often damage bonds that take years to build. Strong minds know that sometimes silence is more powerful than the best argument. Choosing not to react immediately, choosing not to speak in anger, choosing not to waste breath in proving oneself, these are signs of maturity. Silence here is not surrender, it is control. It shows that the person has mastery over their emotions, and this mastery is what makes a mind truly strong. If we think of nature, the strongest forces often make the least noise. The earth moves silently beneath us. The sun rises each day without announcement, and a seed quietly grows into a tree without demanding attention. In the same way, strong minds do not announce themselves with noise. Their quiet focus allows them to create, to build, and to grow steadily until their results speak for them. When we see someone who speaks less and acts more, we may initially think they are reserved or even detached. But over time, we realize that their silence was never emptiness. It was a powerful choice. It was a choice to save energy for what truly matters. And when the time comes, their actions reveal a strength far greater than words ever could. A single act of kindness, discipline, or courage can impact people more deeply than hours of talking. It is often said that actions speak louder than words, and this is true in every walk of life. Words may inspire in the moment, but actions create impressions that stay etched in memory forever. When we observe someone living with integrity, waking up early every day, helping others without seeking credit, or standing firm in difficulties, we feel inspired even if they never say a word to us. Their life becomes a silent lecture, their discipline becomes a teacher, and their courage becomes a guide. Strong minds understand that inspiration is not about how much you say, but about how you live. Think about a candle in a dark room. It doesn't speak, it doesn't announce, and it doesn't declare its presence. Yet its light guides others, comforts them, and gives them direction. Actions are like that candle, they shine without making noise. Many people spend time telling others what to do, but strong minds simply do it themselves. And in that process, they inspire others far more effectively than any speech could. There is an old saying, a children may not always listen to what you say, but they will always watch what you do. This truth applies not only to children, but to everyone around us. People may forget the advice we give, but they rarely forget the example we set. If someone talks for hours about honesty but cheats in business, no one will remember their words, they will remember the contradiction. But if someone quietly lives with honesty, even in difficult times, their example will remain in people's minds as a standard to follow. History is filled with figures whose actions carried far greater weight than their words. Saints, leaders, inventors, and changemakers often lived in such a way that their daily actions became their greatest message. They didn't need to advertise their principles. Their lives were the proof of what they believed. Strong minds follow this path. They realize that if they want to inspire others, they must not only talk about values but embody them every day. Actions also carry authenticity. Words can be pretended, exaggerated, or even false, but actions cannot lie. You cannot fake waking up at dawn every morning to work on your goals. You cannot fake the consistency of showing up day after day, rain or shine. You cannot fake the discipline of practicing a skill until you master it. Actions reveal truth in ways that words never can. Strong minds rely on this authenticity. They don't seek to convince others by argument. They let their actions reveal who they are and what they stand for. Even small actions can leave a deep mark. A smile to a stranger, a helping hand in a moment of crisis, a calm response when provoked. These may appear small, but they carry the weight of character. Long after words are forgotten, people remember how we treated them, how we showed up, and how we made them feel. Strong minds know that every action, no matter how small, is an opportunity to live their values and touch lives. Life is short, and strong minds realize that wasting energy on endless talking takes away from what truly matters. They live in such a way that their deeds do the talking. When others look at them, they don't just hear lessons, they see them in action. And this sight has the power to change hearts, influence lives, and leave behind a legacy that no words could ever achieve. Strong minds do not indulge in proving themselves right all the time. They understand that life is not a battlefield of arguments, but a journey of growth. Many people waste countless hours trying to win debates, trying to prove others wrong, or trying to showcase their intelligence through words, or trying to showcase their intelligence. But in the end, what does it bring? Perhaps a temporary sense of victory, but rarely lasting respect. Strong minds realize that respect and credibility are not won by loud arguments. They are earned through quiet consistency, through actions that no one can deny. Think about a river. It does not argue with the rocks in its path, yet over time it carves its way through mountains. It does not shout, it does not debate, but its steady flow proves its strength. In the same way, strong minds do not get distracted by the need to always win discussions. They simply keep moving, keep acting, and keep producing results. Over time, those results become their proof, their undeniable argument. When we engage in arguments, especially out of ego, we drain our energy. We speak louder, repeat our points, and become emotionally charged. But at the end of it, most people do not change their opinions. Words rarely change a stubborn mind, but actions often do. When people see results, when they see transformation, when they see achievements, they are forced to acknowledge them, even if they never admit it in words. A strong mind understands this and chooses to walk away from fruitless debates, preferring to let actions become the final verdict. Consider an athlete who is criticized and doubted. If the athlete spends time arguing with critics, nothing changes. But if the athlete silently trains harder, disciplines himself, and proves his worth in the competition, all arguments end on their own. The victory on the field is a stronger statement than any words spoken off the field. Similarly, in our lives, when faced with doubt or criticism, the best response is not endless justification, but focused action. There is also wisdom in knowing that not every battle is worth fighting. A strong mind knows when to speak and when to remain silent. Engaging in every debate is like throwing away energy that could have been invested in building something meaningful. Silence in such moments is not weakness, it is strategy. It shows maturity, self-control, and the ability to see the bigger picture. By not wasting time on proving themselves right, strong minds move faster towards their goals, while others are left stuck in arguments that lead nowhere. Strong minds also understand that truth does not require constant defense. If something is genuine, it will eventually be revealed through actions. For example, honesty cannot be proven through words alone. Anyone can claim to be honest, but only consistent behavior over time convinces people. Similarly, competence is not proven by boasting, it is proven by performance. Those with strong minds trust time and consistency to be their advocates. They know that while words may fade, results speak louder and longer. If we reflect deeply, most of the greatest role models in history were not people who spent their lives arguing. They did not chase every critic, nor did they waste breath on endless explanations. They simply did what they believed was right, and their work silenced critics in ways arguments never could. Their strength was not in winning debates, but in creating undeniable results. So when strong minds avoid arguments, it is not because they cannot fight with words, it is because they know that words are not the ultimate proof. They know that actions have the power to end debates permanently, while words can only extend them. Their silence is their shield, and their actions are their sword. Promises are often spoken with ease, but discipline is what proves their worth. Anyone can stand up and declare their intentions, set lofty goals, or speak about what they wish to accomplish. But the real test of strength lies not in making promises, but in honoring them through consistent effort. Words can be broken in a moment, but discipline is built day by day. Strong minds understand this truth and rely less on promises and more on action, because they know that it is discipline, not declarations, that leaves a lasting impression. Think of a student who tells everyone, "I will score high marks this year." The words may inspire those around them for a moment, but unless the student studies daily, wakes up early, and sacrifices distractions, those promises carry no weight. Another student may remain silent, not announcing their goals, but dedicating hours to study in silence. When results arrive, it is the disciplined one who shines. The first spoke loudly, the second worked quietly. The difference lies in discipline. The beauty of discipline is that it is not dependent on mood, motivation, or external applause. Discipline is doing what must be done, even when you don't feel like it. A strong mind understands that promises may create expectations, but discipline creates results. And once results appear, there is no need to justify, no need to prove, no need to explain. The work speaks for itself. Promises often come with enthusiasm. In moments of excitement, we say, "I will change my life. I will achieve this. I will do that." But strong minds are careful with promises, both to themselves and to others. They know that broken promises weaken credibility, while discipline builds it. People remember not what we promised, but whether we lived up to our words. A disciplined person may promise little, but whatever they commit to, they fulfill, and that builds unshakable trust. In relationships too, discipline is more powerful than words. A person may say, "I love you" every day, but if their actions lack care, consistency, and presence, those words feel empty. On the other hand, someone who may not speak often but shows up when needed, supports without asking, and honors commitments silently, such a person's discipline speaks louder than endless declarations of love. Strong minds know that actions form the true language of the heart, and discipline keeps that language alive. History shows us countless examples where discipline triumphed over promises. Great leaders did not rise because they promised their people a brighter future in words alone. They worked tirelessly, sacrificed personal comforts, and led by example. Their discipline inspired nations far more than their speeches did. We admire not what they said, but what they consistently did despite challenges. Discipline is also what sustains dreams. A promise is like planting a seed. It is the intention. But discipline is the daily watering, the protection from weeds, the care in sunlight and rain. Without discipline, the seed never grows, no matter how beautifully it was spoken about. Strong minds know this difference. They do not rely on promises to impress others. Instead, they quietly water their dreams with discipline until the tree of success becomes visible for all to see. Ultimately, promises may open doors, but it is discipline that keeps them open. Promises may win applause in the moment, but discipline earns respect that lasts a lifetime. And when people look at those with strong minds, they may not remember what they promised, but they will never forget the discipline that turned intentions into achievements. True strength is often quiet because those who possess it do not feel the need to announce it. When a person is truly strong in mind and character, they do not boast about what they are going to do, nor do they spend time proving their worth through loud words. They simply do the work silently and consistently and let the results speak on their behalf. This humility is not weakness. It is a sign of deep confidence. Strong minds know that empty noise achieves nothing, while quiet dedication achieves everything. Boasting is often a mask worn by insecurity. When someone constantly speaks about their plans, their talents, or their achievements, it usually reveals a need for validation. But strong minds do not seek validation from others. They are anchored within themselves. They understand that real power does not come from external applause, but from inner stability. By staying humble and quiet about their pursuits, they conserve energy and direct it where it truly matters, into action. Think of a tree heavy with fruit. It bends low humbly under the weight of its abundance. In contrast, a barren tree stands tall and rigid with nothing to offer. Humility is the sign of real strength, just as fruit is the sign of a tree's health. Strong minds resemble that fruitful tree. The more they achieve, the more they bow down in humility, for they know that greatness is not in showing off, but in serving quietly. In life, we often encounter people who constantly talk about what they will achieve. They speak with grand visions, but rarely take even the smallest step toward them. On the other hand, there are those who never speak much about their goals, but surprise everyone with their achievements. The difference is clear. One seeks attention through words, the other commands respect through action. And respect gained through humility lasts much longer than admiration won by boasting. Humility also protects a person from arrogance. Arrogance creates enemies, distances people, and blinds one from growth. But humility, paired with strength, draws people closer and inspires trust. A strong mind knows that no matter how much they achieve, there is always more to learn, more to improve, and more to contribute. This awareness keeps them grounded, while boasting often inflates the ego and eventually leads to downfall. Think of the ocean. It is vast, powerful, and filled with depth, yet it stays low. Rivers flow toward it because it humbles itself. Similarly, the greatest leaders, thinkers, and innovators often carried themselves with humility. They did not spend time glorifying themselves. Their focus was on work, on contribution, and on impact. Their humility made their strength even more admirable. Humility and strength also creates peace of mind. When one is not caught up in proving oneself to others, there is freedom. A strong mind does not need to advertise its abilities, it simply uses them. This silence and humility allow them to live with less stress and more clarity. Instead of wasting time in self-promotion, they dedicate themselves to the journey, and in doing so, they naturally attract respect. When we observe people who are truly strong, we notice this calm presence around them. They don't need to raise their voice. They don't need to speak of their greatness. Their character is their voice. Their humility makes their strength even more profound, and their actions speak with a power far greater than words ever could. Strong minds understand that life is short and precious, and that is why they do not waste time in unnecessary chatter or meaningless pursuits. Time, once gone, never returns, and a wise person values it more than money, more than possessions, and more than praise. Oh, many people spend hours speaking about their goals, gossiping about others, or complaining about circumstances, but those with strong minds know that such conversations do not bring progress. They protect their time like a treasure chest, investing it only in actions that bring growth, learning, or contribution. Imagine a person who spends their evenings discussing the lives of others, comparing, judging, and criticizing. Hours slip away, yet nothing is achieved. On the other hand, think of someone who spends the same hours reading, learning a new skill, exercising, or working on their dreams. Months later, the difference between the two becomes visible. The talker remains where they started, while the doer has moved forward. The difference is not intelligence or luck, it is the way they value time. Strong minds do not waste time in endless words. They convert time into actions that carry them forward. Time has a silent power. It magnifies whatever we invest it in. If we waste it, the emptiness grows. If we invest it in action, the results multiply. Strong minds know this law of life. They realize that their time must be spent wisely because each day is an opportunity that will never come again. They measure conversations, not by how entertaining they are, but by whether they add value. And if they don't, they choose silence and move back into purposeful action. One of the reasons strong minds are valued is because they use their time to create. While others may talk endlessly about what should be done, they quietly get to work. This is why their actions stand out. They may not say much, but in the span of a few months or years, their work speaks volumes. They do not spend time announcing what they will do, they spend it doing. This efficient use of time is one of their greatest strengths. Think of an athlete preparing for competition. They have limited time before the big day. If they spend it talking about their plans, showing off, or engaging in distractions, they lose their edge. But if they dedicate every hour to training, rest, and improvement, their performance will reveal the difference. Strong minds live this way. Every hour is directed towards something meaningful. And because of this, their progress feels almost unstoppable. There is also a deeper wisdom in valuing time. It teaches humility. When we know our days are numbered, we stop wasting them in proving ourselves to others. Instead, we focus on doing what matters. Strong minds live with this awareness. They realize that time will not wait for anyone, and so they do not scatter it on unnecessary words. They compress their energy into action, and that is what makes them stand apart. The greatest achievements in history were born not from endless discussions, but from focused use of time. Inventions, discoveries, revolutions, all came from people who chose action over idle talk. They respected time and allowed it to work in their favor. That is why, when people look back at them, they remember not their conversations, but their contributions. Strong minds live with this principle every day. They do not waste time in words that add no value. They invest time in building, growing, learning, and giving. And because of this, their days become meaningful and their lives leave a lasting mark. Instead of reacting with words when challenged, strong minds respond with calmness and demonstrate their strength through resilience. Life is full of moments that provoke us: harsh criticism, unfair treatment, sudden setbacks, or unexpected failures. For many, the immediate reaction is to speak out, to defend themselves, to argue, or to retaliate in anger. But strong minds operate differently. They understand that reacting with words may give temporary satisfaction, but it rarely brings long-term solutions. Instead, they choose the higher path: patience, calmness, and the steady endurance that shows their strength not in noise but in persistence. When someone insults or doubts us, our instinct pushes us to argue, to prove them wrong immediately with words. But a strong mind knows that arguments fade while results endure. They do not waste energy in verbal battles. They conserve that energy and pour it into actions that prove their worth silently. The calmness is not weakness. It is a reflection of deep control. It shows that they are not slaves to emotions, but masters of themselves. Resilience becomes their greatest reply. For example, when life throws failure at them, they do not sit in frustration, complaining about how unfair circumstances are, nor do they keep explaining to others why they failed. Instead, they quietly rise again, learn from the fall, and work harder. Over time, this resilience turns their failures into stepping stones. Without saying a word, their journey becomes a story of strength, proving more powerfully than any defense they could have spoken. Think of a boxer in the ring. When hit by a powerful punch, if he shouts or complains, nothing changes. But if he absorbs the blow, stands firm, and keeps fighting, his resilience speaks louder than any words. Similarly, strong minds face life's punches not by shouting back, but by staying steady. Their endurance shows others the strength of their spirit. There is also wisdom in restraint. A heated reaction often worsens situations. Harsh words spoken in anger may damage relationships permanently, even if we regret them later. Strong minds know this danger, and so they pause before speaking. They choose silence when silence is wiser and speak only when their words will heal, guide, or add value. This balance of restraint and resilience makes them powerful in ways that constant talking never could. Resilience also inspires others. When people see someone facing storms without complaint, rising from failures with courage, and continuing their journey with patience, they feel encouraged to face their own struggles. The strong mind becomes a living example of how calmness and endurance can overcome even the toughest challenges. Without speeches, without explanations, their resilience becomes a lesson for all who watch them. Nature reflects this principle beautifully. A mountain does not argue with the winds or storms that hit it. It simply stands firm year after year, its silence declaring its strength, declaring its strength. In the same way, resilient minds face life's storms without reacting loudly. They let time and persistence prove their power. Their silence is not surrender, it is dignity, and their endurance is not passivity. It is strength in its purest form. Strong minds know that in the end, resilience will always outlast reaction. Words may fade, tempers may cool, but resilience builds character that no challenge can break. They may not always speak in the moment, but through their calm endurance and unshakable determination, they say everything that needs to be said. Many of the greatest leaders, thinkers, and achievers in history did not talk endlessly about their dreams, they lived them. Their lives became their message, and their silent actions spoke more powerfully than any long speech. A strong mind knows that when words are too many, they lose their weight. But when actions are consistent, they carry timeless influence. Such people become role models, not because they demanded attention, but because their character and choices naturally drew the attention of others. Consider the life of a teacher who doesn't simply tell students to be disciplined, but shows discipline every single day, arriving on time, preparing lessons, and treating every student with fairness. Without making grand declarations, the teacher becomes a role model whose silent example shapes generations. The students may not always remember the words of the lessons, but they will remember the example of discipline and dedication they witnessed. Strong minds recognize that this is the most effective way to inspire, not by telling others how to live, but by living it themselves. True role models do not need to constantly remind others of their greatness. Their lives are so authentic and consistent that people naturally look up to them. Just think of great inventors, reformers, or even simple individuals in our communities who live with honesty, kindness, and courage. They may never demand followers, but their way of life attracts respect. A strong mind values this quiet influence over loud recognition. They are not chasing fame through words. They are leaving a legacy through actions. There is also humility in being a silent role model. When someone tries to force others to follow their advice, it often feels heavy and unwanted. But when people observe someone living with strength, consistency, and values, they are inspired voluntarily. They say, if this person can live this way, so can I. That inspiration does not come from commands, but from example. Strong minds understand that this kind of influence is deeper and more lasting because it touches people's hearts without pressure. Life gives us opportunities every day to be silent role models. A parent working tirelessly to provide for the family without complaining shows resilience to their children. A colleague who stays honest even in difficult situations teaches integrity without saying a word. A person who quietly helps others in need demonstrates kindness far more powerfully than someone who only speaks about compassion. Strong minds live with this awareness, knowing that eyes are always watching, and their example can shape others in ways they may never realize. Silent role models also have the ability to inspire across generations. Words can be forgotten with time, but actions, when consistent, become stories that are retold. Families, communities, and even nations remember those who lived with courage, honesty, and determination. Their names become symbols of strength, not because they spoke endlessly, but because they embodied their principles. Strong minds see beyond the moment and live in such a way that their example will continue to inspire long after they are gone. Being a silent role model does not mean one avoids speaking altogether. It means one ensures that words and actions align. When actions are already powerful, words become fewer but more meaningful. Strong minds understand this harmony. They don't live to impress. They live to express their values through every choice they make. And without seeking it, they become the kind of examples others want to follow. In the end, people do not remember how much we talked, but how much we contributed. Words may echo for a moment, but deeds echo for generations. Our legacy is not built on what we promised, what we argued, or what we declared. It is built on what we actually did. Strong minds know this truth and live in such a way that the actions become their story. When their time in this world comes to an end, it is not the speeches people recall, but the lives they touched, the examples they set, and the impact they left behind. Think about a person who constantly speaks of their plans, their visions, and their future achievements, but never puts them into practice. Years pass, and all that remains are the words they once said, now faded and forgotten. On the other hand, think of someone who may have spoken little but built a school, helped the poor, raised a strong family, or created something meaningful for society. Their actions continue to live on long after they are gone. This is the difference between those who talk and those who do. The doers leave a legacy. A legacy is not necessarily about wealth, power, or fame. It is about contribution. Even a simple act, if done with sincerity and consistency, becomes part of one's lasting impact. A kind word may be forgotten, but a kind deed often remains in someone's heart forever. Strong minds understand that every day is an opportunity to build this legacy, not through loud declarations, but through quiet, meaningful actions. Life is short, and everyone leaves behind something when they depart. Some leave behind only words, which quickly vanish like smoke in the air. Others leave behind footprints carved into the paths they walk. Footprints of courage, kindness, honesty, and service. Those footprints guide others, inspire them, and continue to create ripples of change long after the original steps are gone. Strong minds focus on leaving such footprints. They are less concerned with being remembered for their words and more focused on being remembered for their deeds. Consider the builders of great institutions, movements, or innovations. They may have spoken at times, but what truly stands as their legacy is what they created. A library, a charitable foundation, a groundbreaking invention, or even a life of integrity lived quietly. All of these outlast the person. Their actions continue to benefit humanity long after their voice has fallen silent. Strong minds live with this awareness and measure their success not by how much noise they made, but by how much good they left behind. What's remarkable is that legacy does not always come from grand actions. Sometimes it is the small, consistent actions that define a life. A parent who raised children with values leaves behind a living legacy. A teacher who taught with passion leaves behind generations of students carrying their influence. A neighbor who lived with honesty leaves behind a memory of trust. Strong minds recognize that legacy is built not once but daily, through every choice and every action. Ultimately, when people speak of someone after they are gone, they rarely recall the exact words spoken in conversations. What they recall is how that person lived, how they behaved, and how they made others feel. Did they uplift others? Did they contribute? Did they remain consistent in their values? These are the true measures of a legacy. Strong minds live with this truth, ensuring that their life story is written in actions, not just words.